I hope you enjoy, and Dr. Andrea.
Thank you, Delana. We also have two other trainers tonight. My good friend, Laura Morris. Give her a hand over there. And my handsome hubby, Dr. Jeff. Where is he? There he is. He loves when I say that. So the goals that Delana went over, that's really my heart, and I wanted to heed the call that I heard earlier this year, was to really do that restoration and for families, but not just families. Like, raise your hand if you're married here tonight. Okay, how about engaged to be married? Okay, we got two couples, awesome. Okay. One that may want to. How about if you're single? Single, but only single over like 25. 25 and above and single, okay. And raise your hand if you're 25 and below, like college age, teenage age, excellent. So we have every generation. It's very exciting because, you know, there's no breath that's too short to include all kinds of relationships, right? So, but if you want to talk about our world today and the state of affairs in our world, would you say that relationships are healthy or in crisis? Not every relationship, right? But for the most part, there is relationship crisis, sadly. So relationship crisis, it affects all generations, like we were just saying, and it's a disruption. You know, everybody wants peace in their home. And my husband and I are chiropractors and nutritionists. If you don't know, we're very concerned with health and how your relationships, as healthy as they are, is as healthy as your body's health is going to be. You know, I've seen it firsthand. We've seen it in our wellness center for years. If you're not happy and you don't have peace in your home, that could lead to something as small as maybe an ulcer, indigestion, or cancer. And we may not think of it in those terms, but it seriously affects our health, the state of our relationships. So some facts. I think this was really, really interesting data, that all humans are born to form attachments. Our brains are physically wired to develop in tandem with another's. They're wired that way, to develop in tandem with somebody else through emotional communication even before words are spoken. Think about a baby. Think about even in utero. Our sense of right and wrong originates largely from our biologically primed need to connect with others, our sense of right and wrong. Think about what we just went through as a society, isolation and COVID. Do you think that affected the state of our relationships? If we're born to be in connection with people and everybody was ripped apart from each other, masks on, I forget that COVID's still a thing until I go to the store and I see people with a mask on and I think, wow, what level of fear must there be to still have a mask on, even in fresh air, walking like just down the street. It's amazing, you know, but that people got so comfortable with the masks and being at home. If you look at the statistics of people returning to church or returning to just events, it's still very low. People are still recovering from it. And that really speaks to what's going on. So I have a question for you, and this is interactive, okay? So I'm not just up here like talking at you. We're gonna have a conversation tonight. So I hope you play along with me. So what do humans need? What do humans, and if you're going to speak, because this will be interactive, we will have a microphone runner. This is my son Shiloh, say hi. And so I introduced our other speakers, but Mr. Frank over there, that's Laura's husband, give him a hand. And my son Isaiah on AV. These guys are amazing. All my events, they're the ones that are like helping run this stuff. Dariel right there, he's our event manager from the Hilton. I love him. He makes our events possible. And where's Cyrus? Oh, Cyrus, he went to go run an errand. I have 3 sons, 18, 21, and 23. So what do humans need? This is an interactive thing. So please don't be shy. And what I like to say in events like this, experiences like this, is play a big game. Meaning, if there's something to be said or an opportunity to raise your hand and interact, do it. Because the more you put in is what you're gonna get out, okay? So yes, Dennis, if you don't mind, if you're gonna speak, just stand up and tell us your name. And so what do humans need?
I'm Dennis. Love and affection.
That's good. That sums up a lot. Anybody want to add to that? Patrick, nice to meet you, Patrick. So what do you think? What do humans need?
I said understanding.
Understanding?
Yeah.
Okay.
It makes things a lot easier when you're understood.
Yeah, and what happens when you're not understood?
Conflict.
Right, conflict. Anybody else? How about from this side of the room? Who are you?
I'm Jerry. I think affirmation is very important.
Yeah.
The humans need affirmation.
And give us an example of affirmation.
Job well done.
Okay.
That's a great meal you cooked, or whatever it is. It's just affirmation is the only way we can be built up.
Do you think that's easy or hard for people to do?
It's difficult.
So you have to be intentional.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Mark Otto, sense of purpose, sense of belonging.
Okay, awesome. We do need that. We need to know we belong, which is what that statistic was that I have on the screen. Tell us your name.
My name is Marie, and
Marie.
I think humans need definitely happiness, some fun in life, something to enjoy, and be happy.
I could tell what type of you are, right? Fun, I'm all about that with you.
My
Yes.
name is Erica, and I do believe human needs a sense of security.
Yes,
You know, wherever they are, they need to feel that they're secure.
100%. Excellent, you guys are killing it. Awesome. Okay, so how about the bottom line? We'll say it's intimacy, because that kind of sums up a lot of it. Intimacy. And I love this little way to think about intimacy means into me, you see. That's what intimacy is. When we allow somebody to see into us, we feel everything that you all said. That's the connection. But as humans, we have a lot of fears, and we put up walls, and we have a lot of judgment, and we put up walls. And that all relates back to filters that we believe, things that we want to say it means. We're going to get into that later. So we talked about what do humans need. Now, if you have one of those stickers that you got, wave them in the air so I see where you are. Okay, so we're going to quickly, microphone runners, we're going to need you to move quick, so stay here in the middle. Okay, these are all the things that humans need. Now, we said a few of them, but let's go really, really quick.
So for me, the word was patience, but I like the description more of saying I want to experience grace to live at a reasonable pace.
Grace to live at a reasonable pace. Not like, I'm always like, come on, come on, come on. Not like that, right? Like, chill. All right, next.
When I got with trust, it says I want to have faith in others.
That's a big one.
Mine is success. I want to achieve or accomplish something.
Yeah.
Mine is validation. I want to be valued for who I am.
Okay, how about over here?
Mine is comfort. I want to feel a sense of well-being.
Yeah.
Mine is affection. I want to feel fondness and warmth.
Mine is love. I want mutual affection and attraction in relationships.
Contentment. I want to enjoy what I have.
That's a big one.
Joy. I want to feel satisfied and happy.
Safety. I want to feel protected and secure.
Attention. I want to be noticed.
So hard. I don't want to be cared for.
I want to be serious in a relationship.
Okay, commitment. There's over here.
Wanted, I want to be sought after.
Hope. I want confidence that I will get what I love and desire.
Connection. I want to be united to others.
Mine was companionship. I want deep, intimate relationships.
Significance. I want to have meaning and purpose.
Any others? Check.
Self-determination. I want to have independence and freedom.
Awesome.
Humor. I want to enjoy light-hearted, fun, and memorable times.
Humor.
Honor. I want to feel like a priceless treasure.
Any others over here?
Worth. I want to be and feel important to others.
Respect. I want to be admired and esteemed.
Understanding. I want to be known.
Did we get them all? Okay. So what happens when we don't get that? What happens? There's a couple things that happen, but lack of safety, I would say, kind of sums it up. When we don't get our needs, we don't feel safe. And when we don't feel safe, some things happen. First thing that happens is we put up the walls. We go into protect mode. We want to survive, we're survivors, and and that calls for protection. When we don't feel safe, we're gonna do whatever it takes to be safe. So walls go up. That's not good for relationships, right? How about that we deflect? And what do people do when they deflect? They rationalize, they don't take responsibility for their own behavior, they don't apologize. Have you guys seen that as an epidemic? People do not say, I'm sorry, and then the next part, will you forgive me? Leaving room to clear it up. And when you don't think you maybe need to ask for forgiveness, sometimes that's really powerful and it frees you and the other person. And then this one, define. We define things all the time. We make meanings up. And that's why I did this right here, this little chart. Can you all see that in the back? So which door will you choose? Now this door has a big plus sign. That's for all the glass half full people, that they're going to take it positive, no matter what it is. And the negative sign, that's the glass half empty. Like, oh, I can't believe they said that. I'm so offended.
They're so rude.
Doesn't matter what you say, that's what they're going to hear. It's a choice. And then this one's kind of like neutral. They don't really care. It just went over their head. Like, oh, did you say something? Oh, they couldn't even repeat back to you what you said because it really wasn't registering. You know what I'm saying? So I could say something to you, and depending on what you choose, you may go, oh, wow, you know, and you're going to leave yourself feeling good about me and you, and you're going to leave the conversation and go, okay, you know, like your life was enhanced. Even though maybe the person didn't mean it that way, you could still find the silver lining somehow. Or, like I said, the negative version or the other version. Now, when I learned this some years ago, I was amazed at myself of how I was choosing certain things that I would hear or I would see. And it also goes along with things that might have happened in your life. So I want to use this chart, right? It's actually a little chart. On this side, we're going to put something that maybe you've gone through in your life. And then we're going to see what goes on over here after. But let me have like maybe 3 or 4 people that will give me a scenario of maybe something that was really serious, a life-changing moment in their life that, you know, it wasn't a great thing, okay? It wasn't like a win the Super Bowl kind of a thing. It was like, this happened in my life, and this was, you know, not a great thing. Anybody want to be a volunteer? You don't have to come up here or anything. You just raise your hand, and then we're going to write it on the thing. Yes, in the back. We need a...
Can it be a death? My sister died.
It could be anything.
That was just not a good thing for me.
So your sister died. Was this recent?
A year ago, August, so a month, you know, a year and a few months ago.
Okay. Okay, thank you for sharing that, and I'm sorry.
My name's Gabriel, and a year ago in March, my dad died.
Okay, wow. Anybody else? Something maybe in a different genre of things that could happen to us in life. Yes, Elizabeth.
Not my experience, but something's betrayal. Like betrayal from a person that was very close. Being seen with your recently broken up fiance.
Okay. But it wasn't your scenario, you're just saying somebody else's? It kind of has to be yours because we're going to work with this a minute.
Okay, then divorce.
Divorce. Okay, that's a good one. Okay, divorce. Okay. And I'll add mine in, unless is there one other person maybe? Anybody else? Yes.
Rejection.
Oh, okay. Any details you can kind of like, a little bit about the scenario, maybe?
Kind of embarrassing.
Okay.
I'll share. My dad, in many different ways, I would say, rejected me as well as his other two sons. So I've lived in Coral Springs and Fort Lauderdale all my life, and he's lived in Hollywood, and I can count on one hand how many times I may see him each year. So,
That's okay. That's all right, good. And I'm going to put mine up there, maybe squeeze it in right here. When I first did this at a seminar in 2011, and the facilitator said, hey, give a thing. And they also said, go big. I was like, all right, that's going to be me. I stand up, and I didn't even know what I was going to say. And then I said, well, my parents were divorced, and my dad got married 3 more times. So rude. He would just show up with these stepmoms, and like, so tragic. He didn't even care about us at all, like if we loved the woman or not. Like, yeah. So the facilitator wrote that. Now, what happened next, which I thought that was the end of it, you give your little scenario, came back around, and on this side, we started to learn that it means something. And what did it mean? So I'm going to ask you, John, what did it mean for you personally that your sister, I'm sorry, Mark, what did it mean for you personally that your sister died? What did that mean in your life?
Like my confidant, my best friend, she was my older sister, so she took care of me like a second mother because we were 12 years apart, and I valued her opinions. A prayer warrior, Bible study person. We could be really angry with each other and screw off, but the next day call each other and forgive each other, and she just walked the walk and talked the talk, and so she helped me through my own father's death our father's death 22 years ago. I had nobody to help me through her death.
So in one sentence, what did it mean for you in your life? Like that you lost?
Living with like a void or
a void.
Constant bleeding of something that won't heal.
That you will forever have pain in that area. Okay. And a void of having that sister in your life. Okay, good. So a void and a loss of a sister, like a sister's advice. Okay. And how about you, Gabriel? What did it mean in your life? And you may still be thinking about that. It's very recent,
I would say the biggest thing is a loss of a mentor, because I really respected my dad, and he was a great teacher in many ways, and a lot of life lessons, and spiritual too, especially that last year. He really helped me come closer to God with him and through him, and that was a great journey we had together, so it was a shame it had ended.
Okay. So it's similar, right? So for me, what I discovered that I made it mean was that I was unworthy and I didn't deserve to have a healthy relationship like I have now. Like I thought, well, what nice guy's going to want me from my crazy family, from this broken home? And it wasn't even a conscious thought. It was a subconscious, corrupt program that I was thinking. And that's what I made it mean. So that I would not have the beautiful image of a life and a family and a husband that I knew that I would want. I didn't think I was worthy. So unworthy is what I would say. How about for the betrayal and the divorce? Elizabeth, what did that mean for you?
Failure, because we were both believers. We said divorce was not in the vocabulary, but it happened after years of, a lot of lack of communication and abandonment and failure.
So could I sum it up to say that you were abandoned and that that you felt like you were a failure? Okay. So abandoned and failure. You put that, okay. And then Dennis, how about for you? What did it mean?
I think I have to ditto a lot of what you said, Phil, as well as Elizabeth, but feelings-wise, that's what it made me feel, like all of the above, and just made me feel like making sure my kids never felt that way.
I know that feeling. So then we go back over it again. And we say, wow. So I see what you think you made it mean. And it doesn't really work the same for this category of loss of a death. That's a tragedy, but it's a little bit different in the processing of this. So I'm going to focus really more down here. So for me, I remember that moment. It changed my life, why I'm doing this here with you today. The facilitator came back around and said, well, first of all, I stood up in front of the room. I had nothing to say. I couldn't even understand, like, what do you mean it means something? Like, you know, and then you feel the heat because the whole room's so silent. And you're like standing there, like, and everyone's, and then he comes back around and says, well, now, what did it really mean? I'm like, it took me so hard to get the first time. You're asking me again to redefine it, and I had nothing. And in the moment, you feel the energy in the room going, oh, there's all the light bulbs going off. Like, I get it, I get it. And really, all it really meant was that my dad got married 4 more times. That's it. That's it. Nothing to do with me. I lived a lie. That was so eye-opening. So many wasted years, so much wasted emotion, so many stupid relationships I got in. Because you know when you don't feel worthy, what do? You attract the wrong guys. Physically abusive situations, ridiculous nonsense. Why? Because I believed a lie. I made up a meaning, and I lived like it was true. And that's why I'm so passionate about this kind of work, because it doesn't serve anybody when we make up things and they're a lie. So safety in relationships leads to intimacy. If we don't have safety, obviously, no safety, no intimacy. You want to have safety even in your own self, in the choices you make and the filters you're creating in your life. Tonight, we're going to use a tool. Recently, I got certified last year with, who knows Gary Smalley? Anybody familiar with Gary Smalley? This is him, Dr. Gary Smalley. He had 2 sons. Well, he's no longer living, his sons are. They both became PhDs in psychology, and they made an incredible tool that we're going to do tonight. And I love this tool so much, I sought out seeing how I can use it legally. You know, you can't use other people's property and do things with it unless you're, you know, under their umbrella, so to speak. So I got certified through the Smalley Institute, and I got a certification in marriage and family. I'm not a therapist, but I am a marriage and family ministry person. That's what they call it. They want the people who get certified to go out in their world and teach these tools and use them. And there's probably about 20 books he wrote, and they're all amazing. So Elev8Life nights, we're going to be using different tools, and they're all things that it's just basically like an overview. If you ever want to do these things in your world in a small group study or employees or as a family, that's what we're going to be making available to you. So I want you all to take your sheets. You all have one of these sheets, okay? We are going to interact with this right now. So let's just take a look at this together. So the first page, we're going to identify some things. When you're identifying, think of it as a selfie. Right? We do this with the camera, a little selfie, except for we're not posing. We're getting real. My husband calls this naked time before the Lord. You're going to get real with yourself. No one's going to see your answers. This is just for you and you alone. So identify a conflict, kind of like we just did. Think of a recent conflict, an argument, or a negative situation with your spouse, friend, child, neighbor, coworker, whoever. It should be something that really pushed your buttons and upset you. Like you would like to have been like, bleep, 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 bleep. But of course you didn't do that, right? Or maybe you did, I don't know. But put yourself in that state, right? Can you do that? Then you're going to identify how do you feel in that moment. And there's a checklist. Or there's a few that say other. So if there's some feelings that are not here, write them in. Then you're just going to keep moving through this. Don't get stuck. Do not have analysis paralysis. We only have 10 minutes to do this. This is your first reaction. Just do-do-do-do, go down. Okay, we're not like drilling down and, oh, I don't know, what does that mean? We're not looking up the word in Google and going, what does that mean? I mean, if you really have to, okay. But then you want to check your feelings, okay? You could check as many that apply. Next page, number 3, identify your core fears. Now this is the place that it all boils down to. World, I told you my husband and I are health professionals. We are very into holistic health and prevention. And when you have a symptom, some people would tend to like run to the drugstore and go get something for the symptom. Like for example, I have a cough. Let me go run and get a cough medicine. Let me stop the cough. Well, what if, let's just say you're a carpenter and you work in a mill and there's all this sawdust and you're breathing it in and it's getting trapped in your lungs and your body's coughing to get it out. If you turn off the cough, is that a good or a bad thing? It's a bad thing. Symptoms are a sign that something's going on in your body. You don't always want to turn them off. So if a fire is burning and I just go like this and I clear the smoke, is the fire still burning? Correct. We have to look to the cause. The core fears are the cause. So you're going to identify what is that feeling. What does it sound like? Does it sound like rejection, abandonment, disconnected, like a failure, and on and on and on? Or other, maybe there's something else. Then the next page and the last, well, there's a summary page, but this is the last assessment piece. Number 4, identify your reactions. Oh, your reactions, kind of like the smoke. So when the fire's burning and you get triggered, right? Isn't that a word in our society today? I was triggered. We all know that word. Basically it means someone pushed your buttons. And what's in the cup when it gets pushed is what comes out of the cup. How do you act? What is that behavior that comes out of you when you get pushed? So identify those. And if you, let's just say you pick 5 or 6, circle or star the top 3, because the last page is a summary page. So you are going to list your top 3 core fears and your top 3 reactions. And this summary page is where we're going to interact. You all have sticky notes somewhere on your table. You're going to need one that you're going to put your core fears. Don't put your name. So you're going to put core fears and then your 3, and then another sheet for your reactions. And we're going to do something with those after. So I spoke enough. If you have any questions, just raise your hand. I'll come over to you. But please get started and don't have analysis paralysis. Just move through it. What happens between these 2 charts is called the fear dance. Somebody takes a move, the other person takes a move, right? One thing leads to another thing, leads to another thing, okay? And our buttons get pushed and we react. But in that reaction, that's a point of growth. As you catch yourself and you want to mature emotionally, are you familiar that there's something called EQ, emotional quotient? Like you know your IQ, everybody knows about IQ. But some people don't know that there's actually EQ. Raise your hand if you never knew that. That's like new information tonight. There's a thing called EQ, emotional quotient. How do you show up emotionally in the world? Are you mature? Or are you immature? And there's emotional stages of development. We talked about that last Elev8Life night. I'm going to touch on that really quick tonight. So here's how the fear dance goes. It's like round and around and around, round and around. We have a little crisis. I get hurt. I didn't get what I want. Then I go into fear. And then I react. And then you get hurt. And then you didn't get what you wanted. And then you go into your fears. And then you react. And around and around and around it goes. Anybody relate? Right? Do you want to know how to stop that crazy cycle? Well, I'll tell you, it's not easy. You have to be willing to look in the mirror, take personal responsibility, and my famous quote. Everybody say it. Why do I say that? Athletes know that well. They're like, bring it. Another practice, another whatever, and then they get the accomplishment. But we don't apply that to emotional quotient and relationships. We let ourselves off the hook, and we'll have our behaviors. Walk away, slam a door, curse, belittle somebody, push their buttons, they push you back. That doesn't really work too well in relationships. How about in parenting? Anybody parented by somebody like that? And it's not like the person's evil or mean or bad. It's just that they're immature. And maybe they're stuck somewhere along the way. Maybe they didn't have the tools for personal growth and development. Maybe they didn't have a spiritual life where they can grow in the fruit of the Spirit. So this is not about blaming people. If anybody we're going to do, right, when you go like that, what do they say? There's 3 pointing back. There's 3 pointing back. We have to take the plank out of our own eye. And that's what tonight is about. So how about some new dance steps? Those old crazy fear dance, that doesn't really work too well. So let's get some new dance steps. We're going to go through them one by one. But just as an overview, there's something called the power of one. There's creating safety in relationships. There's the emotional communication. There's self-care, which my husband's going to talk about. And then there's teamwork, which Laura's going to talk about. But let's get into the power of one. So the power of one, you have to take a look at yourself, like I just said. That looking into yourself, you are the one. And hopefully you connect with the one, because that's really where truth is known. When you ask, okay, show me, where do I need to grow? Where do I need to ask for forgiveness? Where do I need to be intentional? Like, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. And there's another amazing tool if you've ever done strength finders. Anybody know about strength finders? It's so good. And you can unlock 34 different strengths. And like usually when you get the book in the back, it has a little code, and they give you 5. But there's really 34. So when I did it, I did all 34, and I wanted to know what I'm not. Because the top 10, great, I got my top 10, but what am I really low on? And one of the things I found out I'm really low on was empathy, which is maybe why God made me a boy mom. But yeah, I'm more like a coach, like, come on, you know, like, let's just brush it off, let's go. Or I'll get a coach answer. But that doesn't work in every relationship. And I actually had a girlfriend who, she does this kind of work too. And, you know, she's coached me before, I've coached her before. And at that moment when she did not want to coach, she literally said this to me. She goes, I don't want to be coached right now. I just want empathy. Can you just put your arm around me and tell me my life stinks? I was like, okay. It's terrible. It's so horrible what you're going through. She was so happy. It was so not my strength at all. But you have to be able to know how to do it. When somebody needs that, you can't just say, well, it's too bad for you, right? Because that's not what we need in this world. We need fruit of the Spirit, abundant fruit of the Spirit. So if you don't have it, put it on. Like putting on the armor of God. Like, be intentional. So I'll give you an example. Like my dad, he's older, and you know, he'll like just want to come over, you know, random times. Could be 10 a.m., could be 6 p.m., doesn't matter. And like, I'll just be honest. I'm being totally honest. So it used to be like this. I would hear him come in and like, hey, what are you doing? And I would go, oh my gosh, I'm in the middle of this. I have to stop now. And like, so inconvenient. But isn't that terrible? So I would hear that little check in my spirit saying, but you don't know how long he's going to be around. And you know he only stays for 10 minutes, which is true. So he comes in, Dad, you want a glass of water? Are you hungry? Sometimes he'll take me up on it, and then I'm really like, oh God, why did I ask that? Now I'm making a sandwich. So, but then he hugs me. Well, I came, I saw, I'm going to go. Okay, so that's it. And afterwards, I'm like, oh, why was that so hard? Why was it so hard? And it's gotten easier over the years. But that's an example of being intentional, right? Intentional. My dad needed just to connect. Like, he lives alone, he's lonely, you know. So he just needed to see a human, his daughter, and it would be nice if I was nice to him, right? And not make him feel the vibe that I'm like, I was a little busy, like, really, what are you here for? So that is something that we all have to kind of take a look inside and see. So the power of one. Make a careful exploration of who you are. And who you are is your identity. And the work you've been given to do. Every one of you is on this planet for a reason. I love to tell the young people this. The sooner you learn it, the better. Lock into your purpose and go for it like a rhino, straight ahead. Don't look to the left or the right. Just go for it, right? And then sink yourself into it. Don't be impressed with yourself. Although, you know, sometimes we do impressive things and that's fun and you feel accomplished. But if that's your MO of the way you're going through life and people get that about you, like you're all impressed with yourself, not so good. And don't compare yourself with others, which is epidemic in this world right now, right, young people? The scrolling and the comparison and who's an influencer and who has, you know, who gets paid to wear a t-shirt and who this and that, right? I mean, it's like so many people now are failing emotionally. I don't even want to tell you the tragic story I heard last week. And it always boils down to comparing yourself to others. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough connections. I don't have enough followers. I'm not enough. Why am I even here? Let me just end my life. Self-harm, suicide, it is epidemic. Oh, I don't know who I am. Let me try this gender. Today, let me try this gender. Let me go with this crowd that's doing this, that, and the other substance. Let me, whatever. Like we're just trying to fill that place in our heart because we haven't discovered who we are and more importantly, whose we are. You know what I mean by that? So let's take responsibility for what we're doing with our own life and live a powerful life. We were born for greatness. It doesn't serve anybody to play small and to be like pathetic. Like, oh, I'm not good enough. Who told you that lie? Well, we talked all about choices. We are choosing that. We are choosing to live that way, and that's not serving anybody. So how about we cultivate an atmosphere of us in our relationships as well, the power of one. If you're married in the room, you know that marriage makes you one. So over here is the wife, and over here is the husband, and should there be a chasm in between, me versus you, or do we seek us and we? If you can't find us and we, then you're living apart. And then it's always like, well, wait a minute, I don't agree. I don't agree. Well, what do we do when we don't agree? Well, I don't know, what do we do? Well, we have fights and we trigger each other, we do this fear dance. Not fun, not the way we're called to live, and not a successful marriage. So take personal responsibility, assess your EQ, and let's grow up. We don't want to get stuck. I like to show this slide at every event I ever do because this is so critical and eye-opening. So if you've never seen it, or even if you have, take a deeper look. We are all born as an emotional infant. And although our body may move along, emotionally we don't always move along. And an infant is like, I want it when I want it. Wah, right? That's what they do. Wah, they cry. And we have to, oh, with the baby, what do they need? Stop everything, right? Some adults require that. Or emotional child, you get a little bit older, grow a little bit more mature. So maybe you're not crying out, but maybe you're gonna act like, you know, passive aggressive, like, little like, right? Or an emotional adolescent, and we all can relate to this one. This is the spirit of rebellion. Don't tell me what to do. Anybody been there? Yeah. I've been in a really horrible marriage that was physically abusive because of that one. I was stuck right there. Don't tell me what to do. And everybody in my life told me don't do it. I lost my mind and did it anyway. Because of that, I was immature. Or how about becoming an emotional adult? Where you actually can assess, oh, my thoughts, my behaviors, my choices will make a ripple effect into the world. They may affect my spouse. They may affect my future. They may affect the world around me. And I care. And I will course correct and not only do what I want. Imagine a world like that. That's the goal. That's the power of one, of what it is to be a serving leader. Not just serving yourself. That's selfie nation. We live in selfie nation. Let's like Exodus it. You got to start with you, the power of one. You choose the meaning. We talked about that. This is what happens in relationships. When you don't come from a place of the power of one where you're taking responsibility, you'll start to say things like, you make me blank. Can anybody make you anything? Can I, no, you cannot. But that's a mind trip. When you truly understand this, that this is even a choice, you go, wow, okay, yeah. You can't make me mad, you can't make me sad, you can't make me angry, you can't make me anything. I choose it. I choose which door, I choose which thought, I choose which lie I believe. How about I feel? So when you're having communication issues and you're trying to get to we and us, you come from a place of responsible where you point your fingers like this, you go, I feel like this when you do that. Oh, that sounds a lot different, doesn't it? When you can communicate like that and set yourself over here, my personal responsibility, I feel like this when you do that. Do you think maybe you cannot do that in a loving request? That's going to be received much better than this offensive, like, you're the problem. You do this. You make me feel this way. That doesn't get very far. And it creates an unsafe atmosphere, which is another dance step. We want to create safety. What does safety look like? Safety looks like an environment where I could be intimate, where I could put my walls down, where I could be authentic me. Have you ever been in a relationship where you're afraid to say what you're really thinking? Because why? Just give me some feedback. Why do we do that? What would be some of the reasons why you would hold your tongue and not say that thing that you really need to say to heal the relationship and go further, but no, I'm not going to do it? Why?
You might turn that person off of you, from you, or offend them.
Okay. So that's considering them. You're saying you don't want to offend them. Okay, that's...
Just don't want to be judged.
You don't want to be judged. So if you say something they don't like, you're thinking they're going to judge you like...
That's what you think, because they think the opposite of maybe I have just a different feeling or a different thought or a different reason for that thinking that way. Yeah.
It could be that you're too proud.
Pride. Yeah.
You assume and predetermine the response that you're going to get from the person.
That's a good one. Yeah, all those things. Very good. Well, if we want to make a place of safety, we want to enhance the relationship and not the problems. I like to say, don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff. It really is all small stuff. I think one day I'm going to get to heaven, I'm going to look back on my life, I'm going to say, why did I spend 2 seconds on that? Why did I even make anything of that? That was ridiculous. In the course of my life, I had to waste, and think about the way people waste their time and their efforts. They could be mad for weeks. The silent treatment for days. Sleeping on the edge of the bed it's not pretty. When we get stuck there, we don't feel safe to be our real intimate selves. How about we adopt an attitude of curiosity instead of judging, like you said? We don't want to be judged. And dismantle the walls. We want to break down the walls, and we want to be safe. Safety equals intimacy. No safety, no intimacy. So another dance step is to have emotional communication. What does that look like? It looks like a way to have deep understanding. We want to have shared meaning. It does take extra effort. It does. It's hard. But hard could be the new fun because it makes your relationship so rewarding, But it takes that extra step. So, for example, if I'm trying to discuss something with my husband, and I just say da-da-da-da, like this little phrase, and he doesn't say to me, oh, so I hear you, what you're saying is this, and I go, yeah. And he just takes it to mean whatever he thinks it may mean. Do you think that we're going to have the same meaning? Chances are not. Unless you have a very established relationship, you're both mature, and you kind of, you've been there, done that, so now you know each other, and you do get to that point, so it gets a lot easier. But if you're seeing your heads butting and not coming to that place, then you kind of have to take a look at the fact that maybe you're not on the same page. Maybe you don't have the shared meaning. You're saying one thing, they're hearing another thing. And that's tragic because you're not even sharing the same thing. So we want to eliminate separation. We want to connect deeply. We want to communicate. And we want to understand each other. And that all looks like being with. just being with. Just calm, quiet. You don't have to speak words sometimes. Just simply listening, proper listening, like that shared meaning, like I said. Fully engaged, listening objectively, not with a slant, not with a filter, not with a judgment, and ask questions. It's okay to ask questions. You're not going to annoy them. Would you be annoyed if somebody asked you a question because they really wanted to understand? Wouldn't you be like, I'm so glad you asked? Because that's wrong. I didn't mean that. Oh my gosh, thank God you asked. We have to be okay with asking and give people permission to ask. It may feel uncomfortable sometimes. You may be like, oh gosh, this is not the conversation I want to have. I'm not in the mood. I'm tired. My trigger behaviors want to come out like, let me just get out of here. That's not going to get you anywhere. Well, we're pretty much coming to the end of our night. We're going to take some time to do what I call shares. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Tomorrow's Leaders Today conference, it's a favorite session. Every single morning, what happens up here is a stool and a microphone. And nobody is allowed to speak unless they're a student. And what those students share from the heart is profound, because we like to tell them that they matter and their words matter. And they're in a safe environment where they're able to let those walls down and really go there. So that's powerful. And I'd like to do that in this environment as well. So this last slide, for me, I feel like this is the commission that I was going for, and I hope we met our objectives tonight. But, you know, we want to proclaim good news to the poor and freedom for the captives. When I say that, poor and captives, think about relationships. Put on the filter of relationships for a minute. There are many, many people who are experiencing poor relationships. They feel like they're imprisoned emotionally in their relationships. That's not a way to live at all. We want to bind up the brokenhearted, lots of brokenhearted people in relationships. Release prisoners from darkness, comfort those who mourn, bestow beauty for ashes, taking that horrible situation and turning it around and having an amazing testimony. Marriages that are on the rocks transformed into marriages that can help others and become a mentor to others. Replacing joy for mourning. And then they will be called trees of righteousness. I love the trees. I hope you love this backdrop. This is one of my favorite, just seeing greenery and life. You know, take a look at some of these pictures as well. They were picked specifically. You know, we're teaching how to bridge. If you think about it, we can know something, but the difference between knowing it and doing it, like the difference between our heart and our head, is like worlds apart. So when you know something, getting across the chasm of knowing and doing is a big difference. You can know something and not do it. You can leave here and take the information and stick it on a shelf. It will do nothing for you. And then roots, I love the chicken coming out of the egg, and the same with the coconut. Those wash up on my lake all the time and sprout into trees. I'm amazed by like the ability of a little soft, little fluffy chick. How in the world do they get out of that shell? They're like a mush, and they have to peck for their life to get out of that shell. And did you know if you go and you help them, what happens? They die. They will die. If you go help a baby coming out of the egg, they're dead. Why? They didn't have the opportunity to fight for their life and get out there, right? It's the same with us. We have to do hard things. Hard has to become the new fun. And relationships is a great place to do that. You know, I took a quick inventory of the core fears. I saw a lot of failure. I have a fear of failure. Fear of being a failure. A lot of disconnected. I feel being disconnected from people. That goes back to what I said at the very beginning, that when we're young, our thoughts and our mindset comes from that connection. People are failing being defective. Something's wrong with me. I'm the problem. Ignored. Insignificant. You know, we can do something about that. Some of you have maybe heard of something called the 5 love languages. You guys familiar with that? You know, acts of service, the ways that you can express love. That's just a little scratch of the surface. I think the true way to express love is to create a place of safety, to take a look and have self-awareness and self-responsibility. And by coming to things like this and being intentional to get that in your life. Okay, so please, the next one's gonna be in February. We're gonna take a break over the holidays. But this room should be full with people, with their employees, spouses, young adults. I mean, this is appropriate for teenagers too. And what a great way to bridge the gap. Pre-married, married, it doesn't matter. This is all enrichment for you. So let's take a time right now for shares. And this is nothing scary. You're not on the spot. I'm not gonna force you to get up and speak. But really, it's for you. Because you're gonna share what value did you get created tonight? What did you get out of tonight? I hope something. And I hope you be courageous enough to stand up and say, wow, before tonight, I saw it this way, now I see it this way. Or I see myself, wow, and now I see what I'm doing in my marriage, or this is what I want to do better in my life. Who wants to play along and go big and share with us? Marie, thank you. Marie, tell everybody how old you are.
I am 12 years old. I would like to start
off. I applaud that. Young leader, courageously standing up. You're my favorite. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to start off with the fact that the core fears, I never really acknowledged that those fears were fears at all. I mean, I just thought it was those feelings that I disliked and I never really wanted to come at me at any given moment. But I never looked at it as a way of a fear, and now that I think about it, it really was a core fear. I mean, it's strong. It's a really strong feeling, and I never realized that. So that's something new I learned today, which was really nice.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, give her a hand. So I want to add on to that about fears, and because of time, we glossed over it. But think about the word fear, right? F-E-A-R, right? Have you ever heard it means false, evidence, appearing real? And that's like a spooky, scary, ooh, why do we give power to that? It's those choices we talked about. We can choose to give the fear and let it overtake us, or we can stand up strong and say, no, I'm sorry, that's not today. Flick it right off. Yes.
So me being a boxwood or a box pine actually, the very analytical type that also believes I have the solutions or the answers. So even the term box, right? I'm constricted in my box of thinking. And so something that I can now improve on is being a listener, to allow even the opinions or belief systems of other type of trees to help incorporate the way that I shape things.
That's right. Remember last Elev8Life night, I had the crayon box, and I talked about all the different colors, and to create a masterpiece, we need them all. We have to have appreciation. That's what Laura was saying. We all have to have teamwork and work together. There's not one that's right and one that's wrong. There's just us that have no patience and we have judgment. And we will not learn to work together. Who else? Yes.
I'll say for me, I think the tree conversation is really interesting because for me, I think it's more like an area in which I can explore a little bit more because, I mean, I don't know, we have different personality types for sure. So I think understanding her personality type a little bit better will allow me to kind of give more grace on certain things, right? Because understanding where she's coming from versus where I am.
Right.
That's what I get out of it.
Yeah. And think about, don't you think you would get less triggered, right? We talked about that, the trigger behaviors. And we would be able to have more fruit of the Spirit, especially self-control, if we understood who we're with and why they're made that way, right? You don't expect, a pine tree to make coconuts. That's not what they do. But you expect them to be beautiful and fragrant and make beautiful furniture that's stable and will last forever, right? Like a faithful friend, yeah.
I think the biggest one for me was the self-assessment priority worksheet, from what you actually spend your money, time, energy, and thoughts on and what you want it to be is horrifying, actually. So that's what I got.
Hopefully motivating and inspiring.
Yes, motivating.
Yes, no condemnation. This is, every day is a new day.
954.
We're here to grow. Who else? How about somebody over here?
Hello, I'm Riley. Something I've been working on for a long time is forgiveness. And when I learned some of these tools at TLT, I've definitely been working on it. I'm a box palm, so I do analyze a lot of things. And one of the things I've been analyzing about forgiveness, and it's like a long drawn out conversation with like 20 tabs in my mind about how long will it take? Do I have to be patient? Do I have to do this? Do I have to, and answers for all of them. And it's nice. Oh, and then I got to look at the Holy Spirit's answer, and then I got to look at my old self's answer. So that's something that these tools have helped me decipher which is which. I had a whole conversation in my mind about forgiveness with my mom, and I don't remember what I was gonna say.
Does your mom push your buttons?
Yeah, she pushes my
And what fear comes up when she does?
Rejection, like I'm not good enough. Like if I don't meet certain expectation, then I'll be ignored or left alone. And I've been thinking about that, and I know that's the only reason she does that is because that was her fear, right? We project our fears onto the world. So we're constantly in this dance of fear, right? And it takes at least one person to make the change to be like, hey, let's not do this anymore. So I'm hoping that when I get to see her again, maybe our relationship will be a little bit more mature and would be able to handle it that way.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'll say just a little hint to you, Riley, that don't put expectations that, I don't want you to be hurt. Like, in other words, in life, you can't force somebody to grow. You can only do your side of the street. And you just keep growing the way you're growing into a beautiful tree with abundant fruit of the Spirit. And, you pray that it will be reciprocated. That's why it's so powerful in marriages. When you learn these things together, a lot of times you see one person wants to get help, one person wants to go for counseling, not the other one. Why? Afraid to be exposed. They may have to change something. Would that be so hard? Well, when pride's a factor and all those other things, yeah, it is hard. But that's okay. Come on, somebody else. Oh, we got someone over there? Okay.
You literally just said everything. One person would like to go to counseling, the next person wouldn't because they'd be exposed. I look at this and I see how different I am from my wife and my daughter. My son is never home, so I am tag team left and right with these two, which is great. They beat me up, but understanding their trees, it makes so much sense because it is almost spot on. And I can see how different I am from them. I don't know how many of you guys had a prefix in front of, I had Contra. Anyone had Contra? Probably not one of you guys. I'm different and I know it, okay. Contra, and I had to run over. I didn't want to ask Laura while she was up there because I had a feeling no one else in this room was going to have Contra something. And she said, it's all of them except. And I said, oh my goodness, Lord have mercy.
So what were you, Contra what?
Contra box.
Contra box. You're everything but an analyst.
But and she goes, that makes so much sense because you don't always see, or pay attention to the detail. Yeah. But everything else, I'm impatient. The whole 9 yards. So thank you for telling me because I think you're awesome. So to know that someone else in this room who I think is awesome is also Contra something is great.
I think we had another hand. Becca, was your hand up? Becca.
So I was kind of thinking about what you were saying of it was just an experience that we had, but we attached the emotion to it. And then I was thinking about what she was saying about how our personality can or can't change. And I feel like for me personally, I'm a box palm, like my girl Riley over there. I feel like originally I kind of was a palm as a child, and I didn't always feel invalidated, judged, or abandoned, but there was things that happened in my life that made me kind of start to protect myself or take on that box personality, to put up those walls, to be more organized so I could have more control over the situation. And I really do feel like as I start to heal some of those things, I see more of the palm coming back out and the box is starting to drift away a little bit. So yeah, I think it's interesting to analyze how much of it is just a defense mechanism.
Yes.
And I think your personality really can change as you heal or as, life experiences happen to you.
Absolutely. You're spot on. And I said this last time, you may or may not remember, but when we had the training with Hetty Brits from South Africa, and she came, and I said, I don't understand it. I've done so many of these types of tests. I mean, I love the trees, but why was my results different than this? Well, it's also timing, like years later or whatever. And she said, well, tell me about trauma in your life. I was like, what do you mean? She goes, what was your mother like? What did you go through? And I was like, wow, and I started to tell her some things. She goes, well, that's probably why you turned into a rose. And now what you truly are is uncovering. As you feel more secure and more safe to be you, the true you will come out. Mixed with growing emotionally and having more fruit of the spirit. So there's no recipe, but I think you are spot on. Yeah.
This entire tree idea, the tall tree personality test, that everything, just how you could separate everyone into different groups like that, that just made me, I don't know, it made me feel so good, because before the first event, I would walk around and I would go, wow, their personality is just so different from that person and that person and that person, and everything just it felt to me as if everyone on the planet had a different personality. None of them were alike, none of them were similar, including mine. And then when I got here and we did the 4 corners, and I was with the palms, and it was so fun, and I was like, on the way back, my dad remembers, I told him in the car, I'm not alone. And I was ecstatic, I was so happy. And I mean, this entire event just made me feel so good about myself.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Good. Well, on that note, thank you guys so much.